Hi there. Welcome to this week's live. We're going to be talking about living brilliantly. Well, I'm going to be talking about it. and I'm also going to be really honest that I'm not feeling really brilliant this week. And I think it's important for transparency, for honesty, for people to be really real and to I don't know, just not pretend all the time that we are so brilliant. Like that light is so brilliant. I have to move it a little bit because it's blinding me. So even though I'm asking, and I'll give some pointers and everything about how to live brilliantly, I think it's not always possible. And that's why I wrote in the comment with a little bit of sparkle, because what is possible is to recognize that whatever's going on may not feel so brilliant, may feel pretty crappy, but our response to it and how we engage with life can still be lit up. It can still be sparkly. It can still be brilliant. And I have a few pointers that I use and have been using this week. And actually, I started writing them down. So, in all transparency, this is a week that can be a little tricky. I'm not usually a date follower, but grief has its own timeline. And this week alone has a lot of significant events that have happened in the past that each year I think, yep, I'm good. I'm going to celebrate it. And each year there's a new level of understanding and growth, which I love. But there's also a level of sadness that can show up. For instance, today, and I did not realize this when I rescheduled, today would be the 25th anniversary of my mom's passing. And while I believe I call them croakerversaries because we croak, right? We never really die. Energy just changes forms and everything. Um, and I truly believe that we can respect, honor, and high five those who have crossed. But I was 29 when she passed, and I feel much like I'm sure some of you do in that circumstance, and even vice versa, if somebody passes as a child young, you you kind of grieve what you didn't have. It's not so much that it's tough that it's the 25th anniversary of her passing. It's that I'm realizing as I look at my relationship with my daughter, could that have been possible with my mother? I don't know because there's different personalities. But while I was doing this and realizing that today was that day, and still believing that it's really important that we celebrate aspects of life and then want to talk about how are you living brilliantly? I figured I needed to challenge myself for that same thing because one thing I cannot stand is hypocrisy. So I will never ask of another what I'm not willing to do myself, including cleaning, including the tasks that are necessary within a business. I think we all need to show up in that regard. So one of the ways that I live brilliantly is and I work with my clients to live brilliantly is to be completely honest with oneself, to be truthful. So when something sucks, I don't think it helps to say, "Oh, but love and light and I must have needed to learn this," or what are some of the others that Oh, I love the ones, "My soul set this up as a lesson for me." Well, no, not necessarily. So, living brilliantly means asking, "Well, what can I learn from this? What is there, if anything, in what I'm going through, can I expand upon?" So, if you can be curious and you can be with the emotions, don't sit in them like a dirty diaper, like don't take it on for 25 years. But if you can allow those emotions to be there, they will pass. And then the light does come up again. And that's the brilliantly part, right? Because brilliantly doesn't mean falsely positive. It means living to the best of your essence, at least to me, this is my perspective, and to be engaged in your life in such a way that when you get to your passing, you can look on it and say, yeah, yeah, that was a brilliant life. I want this for all people. But it does take effort, it does take work. And it doesn't have to be a 24/7 continuous thing. So this week, when I'm feeling a little like not great, uh, and sad, I'm looking to the sadness to ask, okay, what is it that I am appreciating about this? Because another way that when we suggest, when anyone suggests that you live your life brilliantly or all lit up, a lot of the times the first thing people will suggest is an attitude of gratitude. I wholeheartedly believe in that. But I take it a little bit further because I don't think being grateful for what is in your life or what you've created in your life is enough. I think appreciation needs to be part of this experience. So you can even appreciate the days you're feeling crappy and be contributing to a brilliant life, because there's a reason they're called emotions, right? They're energy in motion. And in being able to access them or feel them is a gift. I just watched a YouTube video about this brilliant soul. I'm going to use that word probably too many times in this, who does not access her emotions and wants to so much, can see what is happening in others when they access their emotions, but she's not able to access hers. And yet she's an absolute delightful soul. So her curiosity about what her wiring was very inspiring to me, because as I'm watching this, I'm feeling even more appreciation for the fact that the work that has been done, that I've done to actually allow my emotions. Because I don't know about you, but the household that I grew up in did not encourage identifying your emotions or having emotions. I was asked more than once if I'd like something to cry about. Worst smack I ever got was when my this fresh mouth said, "Already got something, thanks." It's been there my whole life. So that watching this brilliant, beautiful soul explain her wiring and her process, and learning to appreciate herself for how she's wired. Because can you imagine if we all had the same wiring, how boring this would be? So, your essence, your brilliance, and it's your commitment to your own soul to figure out what is brilliant in life, what is sparkly, what is um, lit up, and what you can appreciate. I don't want you to lie. I don't want you to lie to yourself. I don't want you to lie to others. If you are having a moment or a day or even a week, if we're past a week, reach out to the therapist or confidant or somebody. But being able to recognize and respect the fact that you're having moments of emotions, not easy to say, is something to celebrate too. Do you see? Because if you're not honest with your emotions, they're going to get stuffed down, and there's just no way to feel lit up or bright and bouncy. And I think we ought to embrace challenges. And I'm the type of person that if there's a challenge, I do want to fix. It's one of the things I've learned in when I changed my business from being strictly intuitive readings to coaching, is that I was not there to fix anything. Nothing's really broken with the exception of bones and the car and stuff. But if something's in process, we just need to understand it and help it along. So when I shifted from doing strictly intuitive readings and mediumship readings and such to coaching, I had to learn how to step back with my fix it self and ask the person I'm working with, like, what is it that you would like to see in your life and what would bring you joy? And that's a big part of the work I do because I truly believe that when we feel a peacefulness within ourselves and a sense of self surety, that, that expression, fill your cup first, that's what that is. You feel good. You don't feel like somebody's taking away from you, and you don't feel like life is all crap because you can train your neural pathways, you can train your heart to be appreciative. And I think that goes a lot further than gratitude. Gratitude tends to be connected to stuff. Um, I mean, we could be grateful for ourselves and for the people in our lives, but I found that it's a good entry point to appreciating, because when you can appreciate that there are going to be some crappy days, you can also appreciate the fact that you've had crappy days before and you're doing pretty well. So um, I think it's important for us to celebrate the small wins, we'll call them. I was trying to figure out a different way to say it, but we may as well say it that way. The small wins, like what did you get done? I freaking got an image that I have been working on for probably about 3 weeks now because I saw it in my mind's eye, but your gal doesn't have much of a design aspect about her. So it's hard for me to get out of my pie hole what it is that I want to see. And I figured it out in Canva about 3 minutes before I jumped on here. That's a small win to me because it still needs some adjustment. It still needs some tweaking and color. But this is something that it may not seem like a big deal to anybody else. You probably don't give a hooey about it. However, it's one of those things that's been gnawing at me because I just couldn't figure it out. So the small win may be walking to your mailbox and back. The small win may be that you did some writing today and you connected with some of your emotions. I often ask my clients to do happy dances. And it's pretty mandatory that when something comes up that they're proud of themselves or they've done well, that the pat on the back happens. Because if you don't learn how to inspire self, it may not be there. Um, and they are, thank you, Amy, they are the small wins that make you feel good. They don't have to be about everyone else. That's where it gets depleting. Like when we're so externally focused, we get further and further and further from ourselves. And I know that the more that we can, as individuals, know who we are and learn to love that and be good with it, I'm not suggesting it's always an easy road. We can care about other people without carrying the burden of their approval. So it's not about anyone else. And that's not a self centered perspective. It is a selfish perspective, but selfish needs to take care of self. So self centered, you don't give a hooey about anybody else. So these small wins, when you practice appreciation, these small wins add up. I call them micro movements. So, and micro movements matter. You get the 3 M's. So when you start to pay attention to those micro movements and you start to collect them, it's like anything else about where you put your energy. It's like catching the kids doing something well If you do that, they want to do more of it. And that's energy in and of itself, right? So it will also help you kind of reverse engineer. If you start to become aware of where you're doing something um, better than you were doing it before, or you have an awareness that you didn't have before, you will want to set other goals. And goals are important. I used to shy away from that word, um, mostly because I feel like it can become too centric, like just goal oriented, and that does not work. But it can merge. The idea of setting a goal and then achieving a goal merges really well with self-awareness, because in order to be self-aware, you have to pay attention, and in order to achieve goals, you have to pay attention. So the common denominator is right there. And then you may set different goals. Like, one of my goals is to diminish the time I'm on my phone. These do not have to be, rocket size, mountain high intentions. I actually suggest that they're not. You want to change um, some of your eating habits. Well, then just change one thing and stick to it. Like, don't feel like you have to do the whole thing, because it's not often not attainable. I know there's some people that can set their mind to it and just do it. And yeah, that's not this gal. So when you embrace the challenges and you are in a practice of appreciation, um, you will achieve, you will um, meet those goals. And and to Amy's point about it not being other people, these are not goals that you even have to speak out loud. They aren't anybody else's business, unless you would like the guidance or the help to achieve those goals. Like this week, one of one of my clients, she achieved something that we've been talking about for a very long time, and we have tried every avenue to help her be there, to be able to follow through. And she did it this week for herself. And I teased her a little bit. We've been working together for years. So I teased her a little bit and said, well, geez, what do you think one of the reasons is that you did this last night? And she's a brilliant woman, staying with the theme of today. And because she had an appointment with me. And sometimes that's what we need, right? Like, sometimes we need that accountability outside of ourselves, but not to ourselves. Like, along the same lines, a new client I'm working with, she put it so brilliantly, because this can get out of balance with coaches and advisors and stuff. She said that I believe in her so much, she doesn't want to let me down. Oh. And I've heard other variations, and I felt other variations of that too. But what I asked her to do was to not think of me as anything but kind of like the bumpers in bowling. Like, I'm going to keep you in the center of the lane, and I'm going to do that through um, coaching, mentoring, and some intuition, block removal, conscious circuitry. I'm going to bring all that stuff in here, but it is never the ego of the coach or the advisor or the consultant that should be in consideration when being in this interaction. So while I so genuinely understand what she was saying, it was my role to affirm to her that just what I'm telling you, the self appreciation, the inspiration, and then the action, because I can't do it for her, has to come from her. And that's because she deserves the joy too. She deserves to feel all of those goals, and they'll probably change because they do, being attained, and then the feeling of pride within herself. Pride is fantastic. I've often felt like the energy that comes from our guides and from angels and from even from those who have crossed, like I don't have a word for it. I'm woefully inadequate in only speaking one language, well, spirit language, but still not helping me. So I've never been able to come up with that word of how they feel about us because there's no ego, there's no judgment, right? So I call it spirit pride. And even though I know there's no ego on the other side, I know there's pride. And I think it's important that we have that too. Most heart centered, intelligent, calm people are not going to get, you're not going to get such a fat head you won't fit through the door. And those people who will probably aren't watching videos like this. So I would love for you in the next, let's go a next week or so. Um, I would like for you to kind of follow yourself around. And I would like for you to catch yourself doing something well. And that includes, did you get your water in today? Oh my goodness, that thing is like, it's leaking all over the place, sweating all over the place. I'm freezing and the water bottle's sweating. So, what are you doing well? Did you get your water in? Did you answer that email? Did you call the doctor's office back to schedule the appointment? Did you put, here's one I have to do this week, your registration sticker on your car? Did you go grocery shopping? Did you put the laundry away the same day you washed and dried it? Why is that such a challenge? My other laundry basket hoverers out there, do we have any? Um, that's one of my goals. And why? I'll share with you why that it's important to me. I promised a client because this is something we were working on. So I get myself into some pickles because I figure if it's important to the client and it's something in my life that I can level up on, then that's me honoring whomever has chosen to work with me. So we'll gotten myself into some pretty good pickles, but it's also how I have run some half marathons. Not doing that ever again. Or biked a certain distance, or reading. I have a reading challenge with one of my clients. And rumor has it there's an infinity hoop on the way to me that I'll be joining up with a client with too. Whatever works, right? So that's seek the guidance, um, seek the help. And it can be through things like this, free lives or documentaries that you watch or books that you read. As long as you're learning, I'm going to back that up actually, because as long as you're a soul, you are here to learn. If you stop learning about yourself, about other subjects, about your environment, about your country, about your legal system, about your politics, if you stop learning, you're not contributing to your soul's growth any longer. And yeah, I know there are going to be some people who do this. And I know there are going to be some people who resent those of us that continue to learn and to speak up and to feel good about ourselves so that we don't have to take down other people. Um, there, there are going to be some people who don't love that, but the heck with them, right? So the more you're learning, you are honoring your soul's journey. And it can be learn how to macrame. Do people still do that? Learn how to plant a garden. I have a squash, one squash born so far, one cucumber, and two tomatoes, but one's not quite right. So these are the things this year that I challenge myself to learn. Because when you buy a property with 12 raised bed gardens, you better do something with it. So let me know if you need squash any in the next couple of months. Learning how to uh, tile a bathroom, like learning how to change the oil in your car. It does not matter what you're learning. It doesn't. As long as you are showing up in some kind of curiosity, that's all that matters. And your soul will receive that energy and be like, oh, they care about me. They love me. I'm in this with them because you want to integrate it. Ultimately, over our lifetimes, we're here to integrate the soul and the human self consciously. The soul's always been there. It's always been there. But on a conscious level, most of us are just waking up to that in this lifetime. And that's fantastic. So, the other thing that you could do to live brilliantly is take some bold actions. So, is there something that you've always wanted to try and it's within your means or it's available to you to try? Take some bold actions. Do that and do it while your knees are knocking, your stomach's tense, um, and like you feel like you might pass out at any moment. But because when you take bold actions, you took bold action to come into this lifetime. Take bold actions in other places. Maybe that's speaking up for someone. Maybe you're witnessing something in public and normally you would say nothing or just walk away. But this time you say, no, that's not okay. And those of us with this complexion need to do more of that. Maybe it's, like I'm taking horseback riding lessons and I decided just last week as I was going round and round and round the circle, confusing poor Scooby because my legs were saying go and my hands were saying whoa. I love that expression, Mary. Thank you very much when you watch this later. So I was confusing poor Scooby, but I was also getting on myself for not knowing how to do this already. Anyone else with imposter syndrome? Oh, congratulations, you're human. It's not a big deal. Everybody experiences it at some level. So, but I decided as I was going around that circle, it did help that if I got in my head, could potentially be in a dangerous situation. Always respect the vehicle of which you're participating. So anyway, I said to myself, I felt the imposter syndrome come up, and this goes to goals, but this also goes to appreciating self. And it's an example of how you can shift your thinking literally mid stride, although Scooby was doing the striding. And I said to myself, you know what? You can't be an imposter if you're new at something. I am new at this. Did I do it in past lives? Probably. I don't remember. So I am new at this. You can't be an imposter if it's something you've never done before. You're a newbie, right? And because I started saying to myself, what would I say to a client? Like, what would I say to my friend? What would I say to my daughter or my granddaughter? And that's what popped into my head. And I know I've said that to clients before when we worked on imposter, but I wasn't holding it for myself. So, can you appreciate the brilliance and intelligence that you have that you share with others for yourself? Because what that will do is it'll work through and help with the self reflection. And it'll also set some concrete things that you can put into action so that you're doing both. You're raising your vibration, you're connecting with yourself and self awareness, and you're achieving goals. And I love talking about the idea of goals, to Leah's point here. Unsure, I've been wanting to start, but unsure how. Look around where you are right now. Okay. Look around. What's one thing within your view that you would like to take care of? I'll show you mine. Total transparency. This is the cutest phone holder you've ever seen. It gives you 2 thumbs up. Tells you you're doing everything well. See this pile? By tomorrow, there will be no pile on the corner of the desk. Don't make these huge goals. If you're starting with setting goals, um, have the first 5 or 10 be ones that you can do. I mean, you might meet up with your own critic, you might meet up with some kind of chatterbox in there, but just have it be something that you can easily accomplish. Add an extra vegetable to dinner, take care of the pile. That's going to take me 5 minutes. Do you know how long it's been sitting there? About a week and a half. Um, and it's something like run the vacuum through. Do not make this hard. We make it too hard. Make it too hard. There's a message, unfortunately, of in our society of if we're not living the Instagram perfect perfection lives, um, then our life even valuable? And if you, for those of you that are popping in now, if you saw the beginning, haven't been feeling all that awesome this week emotionally, and yet there's brilliance in life, right? So if you listen to your own internal guidance, you got to, most of the time, you have to be quiet to do that. But you can do that while you're driving. You just don't close your eyes. Like, listen to that and ask yourself, well, what is one thing that I want to do today? What is one thing that I can accomplish? And that's where you start. Don't make it too hard. Life has enough hard parts to it. We do not need to make awareness and having an amazing life difficult. We need to appreciate the moments that we are in this life. And I'm saying that to myself too. And, um, collect the sparkles that are available. So, on that note, I will leave you. And I wish you the most brilliant of week because you are a beautiful, brilliant soul. And I'm so grateful that you're all in my world, in my circle, even if we've never met. Take care.